In the 1920s, the Imperial Japanese Navy had tried to build a small carrier capable of providing a useful supplement to the fleet in the form of Rujo. This was to take advantage of a loophole in the Washington Naval Treaty that only classified a ship as an aircraft carrier if it displaced 10,000 tons or more. But the attempt failed on two grounds. By the time she was finished, Rujo was well over 10,000 tons, and secondly, the loophole was closed in the 1930 London Naval Treaty anyway. But, not to be outdone, the Imperial Japanese Navy switched tactics, as they would do with a number of other designs like the Megami class. If they couldn't build a specific type of ship that they wanted right there and then, they just built some other kind of ship that just so happened to have purpose-built design features that allowed for rapid conversion into the type of ship they did actually want. And so a large number of seaplane and submarine tenders were laid down, with each type specifically designed for quick and easy conversion into light aircraft carriers or a few other useful ships. For the ships that we're concerned with today, this started with what was officially the 12,000-ton Surugikzaki class of submarine tenders. She and a sister ship, the Takasaki, began work in the mid-1930s, the first ship having its keel laid at the end of 1934 and the second in summer 1935. Although both hulls were launched pretty quickly, just 6 months for the first ship and a year for the second, the final fitting out and completion was a long, drawn-out and oft-suspended affair thanks to other priorities in Imperial Japanese Navy ship construction in the Yokosuka shipyards, and also the fact that this class had two built-in conversion options, one to convert to a carrier, the other to convert to a fast fleet oiler, and it wasn't yet clear which of the two would be more important. Eventually, the first vessel commissioned at the start of 1939, but the second ship was never actually finished in her initial tender form. Instead, work began on completing her as a light aircraft carrier, and by the end of 1940, she was commissioned as Zuiho, or Fortunate Phoenix. Her sister, and technical predecessor, was then taken out of service, and in about a year, she became the carrier Shoho, or Happy Phoenix. The class displaced around 11,500 tons standard and was capable of just under 30 knots at full power, thanks to 52,000 shaft horsepower driving a pair of screws. This speed was due to the replacement of the diesel engines intended to power them as submarine tenders with destroyer-type steam turbines, although operational top speed dropped from the trial set of just over 29 knots, just under 30, to around 28 knots in practical service. The hangar was designed initially to support an air group of 18 Zeros with 3 spare, and no less than 27 strike aircraft with 3 spare, usually B-5N Kates. However, this air group plan included extensive storage of aircraft on the flight deck, and in any case proved wildly overambitious. In practice, an air group of around 30 was found to be more practical, and in the early part of the war, shortages of both pilots and aircraft meant that initial air groups were even less than this, and would sometimes use obsolete aircraft. Firepower came courtesy of 4 twin 5-inch dual-purpose gun mounts, 2 per side, plus initially 4 twin 25mm anti-aircraft guns, although that number would rapidly increase as the war went on and would eventually also be supplemented by experimental anti-aircraft rocket launchers. Shoho had a relatively short war. She covered the return of the Kido-butai from Pearl Harbor alongside her sister ship, ferried some aircraft to Truk, and was then assigned to Operation Mo. Here, with a dozen fighters and half a dozen Kates aboard, and a third of the fighters being older A-5Ms, she was attacked by a US carrier aircraft strike force that had been intended to attack the too much larger Shikaku class. But, thanks to misidentification of a contact type, and its location, the US aircraft had flown past their original target location, which turned out to be a phantom point, and instead just piled into poor Shoho, with multiple bomb and torpedo hits sending her to the bottom with the famous signal, Scratch 1 flat top. Zuiho, on the other hand, managed a relatively charmed life, being present at Midway, but present in the support fleet and so avoiding damage, then only taking mild damage at the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands off Guadalcanal, then dodging US submarine-launched torpedoes, and managing to extract herself from the Battle of the Philippine Sea, aka the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, physically intact if somewhat lacking in aircraft. Her luck, though, would eventually run out at the Battle of Leyte Gulf. As part of the Northern Force, she was carrying very few aircraft and was primarily serving as a big distraction. This she managed to do fairly well, and even initially evaded a torpedo strike from several Avengers, only taking a single bomb hit in this first wave. Another attack wave ignored her completely, but a third managed to land a torpedo hit and another couple of bomb hits. Her shield of fortune, while now clearly failing, still held somewhat, as an entire fleet carrier's worth of aircraft also managed to miss her. But the hits she'd endured and the splinters from various near misses were gradually adding up. A fourth attack also somehow managed to only inflict splinter damage from near misses, but those small holes tipped the flooding over the edge, and she eventually sank in the late afternoon, albeit with 3/4 of her crew making it off the ship to safety.
That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have a comment or suggestion for a ship to review, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to comment on the pinned post for dry dock questions.